Pete Thompson Show. He's with us each week, and I'm sure he's extremely busy and bored of listening to me correct and be the grammar police. That is Kevin Minnick, NJ Advanced Media. Kevin, how you doing this morning, buddy?
I'm doing well, Pete. How are you?
I'm doing well. I know that you use those words correctly, so I don't even have to cover that ground. But it is 40 years ago today. We're starting with that. That's the tweet that I put up. 40 years ago today, does the Miracle on Ice, United States versus USSR win in hockey still have an impact, and why? How would you answer that, Kevin Minnick?
Does it still have an impact? I'm not. For me, no. But, obviously at that point in time in history and in world history, obviously it did. So, yeah, I guess, obviously that was a very big deal at that point in time. I think the way hockey's going nowadays with so many international players and in the NHL and such, but that it's maybe, it's not that big a deal anymore. But as far as U.S. hockey is concerned, I guess, that will always be probably the biggest moment that the U.S. has ever had.
And it was for world, it was a world event, not an American event. That I think that has something to do with it. Where was Kevin Minnick? Let's walk down memory lane a little. Where was Kevin Minnick at the time 40 years ago?
Where was I? Jeez. I was 14 years old, so I might have been maybe in the 8th grade, I guess, at that time.
All right, or a freshman, right on that line.
8th or 9th grade or so. I do vaguely remember watching the game, because that was not, I think the thing that a lot of people don't remember is that was not the gold medal game.
That is correct.
That was the
semifinal,
so to speak,
round robin,
and I think the final was, again, I want to say the final was against Finland or Sweden.
Finland. You win another Finland. Point. Your gut is leading you in the right direction. Yeah.
So I think, obviously a lot of people thought that was the be all end all game, but no, they had to play one more game. So yeah, I mean, that was everyone, you kind of remember what's going on, and I kind of remember, I think, even at 14 years old, there was a sense of the pride for your country in the result that night. So, yeah, I couldn't tell you minute by minute what happened. I mean, but I do remember vaguely that I certainly did watch the game.
Yeah, it was the game was actually played. They did it on tape delay. ABC did. The game was actually played about 3:00 in the afternoon, and ABC was trying to request to move it, and the Soviets said no because they didn't want it to air at 4 a.m. Moscow time. And so then ABC said, we're not even going to do it live. We'll tape delay it and save it for prime time. And they didn't air it until 8:00. And you couldn't do that today. Today they would be tweeting every shift and, the clock running down, and it wouldn't be a secret today. But plus, you mentioned that if you were 14, I was 9, right, that you take your cues from your parents. So as word leaked out, Dave Weinberg was at Appalachian State, so he was chasing girls in college, but he remembers too. And I forget where, McGarry was, McGarry said he was the backup to the backup to the backup to the backup guard on his Catholic school boys basketball team. Did he play? No, but he was on the bench. So that's where all the players in the Pete Thompson Show were 40 years ago today. But you took your cue from your parents, and I remember the national pride that we may not have been ever as unified as we were in that moment.
Yeah, that's I think it. I kind of think the Olympics, so to speak, maybe has lost a little bit of its luster through the years. I think as professionals became involved in the Olympic movement and things like that, I think it really changed its focus. But back then, at that point in time, when it's strictly amateurs, and the best the U.S. had going up against these, that was the unbreakable team. That was the dominating team at the time, the Russian team, and there was no way they were going to lose. And obviously things worked out a little bit better for the U.S. that time.
Kevin Minnick's with us, and I'm sure that in his head he's thinking, please, let's talk some high school sports and get this in my wheelhouse. So I'm happy to pivot, Kevin, away from Olympic hockey and get into your bread and butter, which is high school sports. McGarry pointed out that this may be the start of the busiest 2 or 3 week stretch for you guys. You know, you've got conference tournaments that are either beginning or right around the corner. You've got playoffs for boys and girls basketball. Wrestling is at the district level right now. There's some teams that are still swimming for state championships. What's getting Kevin Minnick's attention on this Saturday?
Yeah, there's we've got a week left in the basketball season, so there's a few games today, and then next week is kind of thin, but teams leading up to the start of a tournament, and then once that tournament starts on Monday, March the 2nd, we're basically going every day, and there'll be there will be games and things to do every day for probably about a 3-week stretch of time. I think the Tournament Champions ends on the 22nd of March, so we're looking at basically for 20 days, 3 weeks there that it will be basketball mode every single day, whether it's games, whether it's updating for the next round, or whatever may happen. But this is the time of the year that and I say it in every sport, when the playoffs come on around, this is the time of the year that people have worked towards, and it's what the focus of all the practices and the games are for. It's to get a chance to play, to qualify for the tournament, and then do your best to make a run. And if there's in high school sports, there's more to it, I understand, than winning championships, and I get that, but you're playing the game really for the ultimate prize, and that ultimate prize is a state championship, and this is when you should be at your best. So, like I said, the next 3 weeks, once this tournament starts, are going to be action-packed. Every night's going to be, half the field's gone every night. So it's going to be an exciting time, and we'll see how things shape out.
Mike and I talked in the first hour of the show. Kevin Minnick's our guest here on the Pete Thompson Show. We talked a little bit about the Cape Atlantic League tournament. I guess this is about 8 or maybe the 9th year that they've had this Cape Atlantic League tournament down here. How many other conferences or how many other leagues do that? And one of the things we talked about is that in the old days, you'd kind of maybe have a meaningless game or two, or you had that gap, and how kind of clutch it is for these teams to feel one and done basketball before they get to state playoff game that is definitely one and done, or could be potentially one and done.
Well, in South Jersey, there is nothing. There are no conference tournaments, and in boys basketball, the Cape Atlantic tournament is the only tournament of its kind, a conference tournament. There are no county tournaments. If you go north of where South Jersey begins, you go to Mercer County.
Well, that's always debatable to folks in Jersey anyway, right? Where does North Jersey? Some people say Manahawkin is where North Jersey begins, but go ahead.
Yeah, but if you look at it's kind of it's kind of to the point where South Jersey really, I think, is a bit behind the times. Every other county, this is the time for county tournaments in North Jersey and Central Jersey, conference championships. They build them into their schedules so that they have these, and they're really big deals. I know in Union County, this is, I believe, the 87th year for the Union County tournament. They use these county tournaments, these conference tournaments, as the final preparation for the state tournament. And in all honesty, it's a shame that South Jersey hasn't taken a decent look and seeing how they've been run, see how they operate, and let's cheat a little bit, and let's just duplicate what they do, and let's have county tournaments, or let's have conference tournaments. There's no excuse why you can't. And at this point in time, the last 2 weeks of the season, a lot of teams are playing essentially meaningless games. Teams that have not qualified for the playoffs, teams that are competing in divisions or leagues where division champions have already been crowned. These games, in essence, are meaningless. So it's time to maybe put some meaning into the end of the season, generate some momentum going into the state tournament, and see where that takes you. And there are games here and there. There will be a couple games this week that are they're decent matchups. They're pretty entertaining games and stuff. But in the grand scheme, they really don't mean a thing. So let's make the last 2 weeks a little bit more meaningful. Let's introduce a conference tournament. Set aside 3 games like the Cape Atlantic does, and generate some momentum and some additional interest going into the tournament.
Kevin Minnick with us now. Kevin, are you surprised? And so that was going to be my follow-up question: was what is the impetus, or what is it that's stopping these other conferences from doing it? Tradition. I mean, come on, this is 8 or 9. I think it's 9 years now for the Cape Atlantic League tournament. Are you surprised? Was going to be my question, that after 9 years of the Cape Atlantic League tournament going on, and other conferences should be able to see, or other leagues should be able to see that works. What are they waiting for?
Exactly. What are they waiting for? And I'd rather not get on a soapbox and really express the way I feel about things. But, I don't know. Does it come down to laziness? Does it come down to, well, we haven't done it before and things are okay, we'll just keep it that way? Every once in a while, it's okay to change things around, to interject some new energy and make a change. And, I remember an editor one year, God, probably going back 20 years ago, and he told me, you know what, try it. Try a story from a different perspective. Try writing a story from a different angle than you're used to. Get out of your safety zone, think outside of the box, because the worst thing that can happen is it doesn't work. So you know what? If it doesn't work, okay, we tried it. It didn't really work. It wasn't what we anticipated it to be. Let's try something else. Or, maybe we just don't do anything. But I don't know why other leagues, I don't know why teams in a specific county haven't tried something. There are more than enough examples out there that you can see how they do it. You can model it after how somebody does it, tweak it the way you want it tweaked, and see how it goes. And I think, I'm pretty convinced that if you were to come up with a county tournament, even for the sake of argument, a South Jersey invitational type of tournament at the end of the season where, you have a group of people, maybe you put together the top 8, top 16 teams in South Jersey, and you battle it out for a week. And then, you know what? You've generated a lot more interest. You've got a lot of teams now competing, and you got teams, developing some form of, some solid momentum going into the state tournament. So there's a lot of factors that go into doing something like that. I get it. But you know what? It's time to interject some new blood into things and change things around, because, after the status quo, after a while, it becomes boring, it becomes listless, and it becomes just a drag, to be honest with you. Why not make this last week a really big week going into the state tournament?
Amen. From your lips to the rest of those ADs and the conferences and the leagues out their ears. Of course, I should remind our listeners that we'll have St. Joe boys at AC High boys on Monday, and we're also going to carry the semifinals on Wednesday and the boys and girls finals for the Cape Atlantic League tournament next Saturday. That's noon and 2. So remember that you can listen to Cape Atlantic League basketball right here on 97.3 ESPN. Kevin, in our final couple minutes together, I did it caught my eye that the previews and picks for every boys basketball sectional tournament in South Jersey are up by Kevin Minnick, NJ Advanced Media for NJ.com. So you are highly qualified to take us through in a little whip around as we look at each bracket and who you think is going to come out of that bracket. I will say this, too. I saw my man Cassidy there. What's that? Eric Cassidy, the Cherokee coach. I met him at the Wildwood basketball tournament a couple years ago and was instantly a fan. That guy seems to know what he's doing, and they're the defending champs. And why don't we start in South Jersey Group 4?
Oh, boy, you're throwing it at me. In 4, I think, in 4, I think is wide open. I think this is a year where 4 could very well go down to any number of teams. I don't think there is a dominant team in Group 4 this year. If you look at the standings and you look at some games, you'd see how teams are beating up on each other, and no one has really, jumped out and kind of taken the reins. I think if in 4, I kind of like the way Toms River North has been playing this year, and I think Atlantic City has an opportunity to make a dent and make a little bit of a run. I think they can make a little bit of a run. I think that it's open enough that they can do that. But I think and my picks I might have made them the other day, but I think they may be subject to change here or there. But at this point, I think Toms River North has itself 2 very good scorers and a dominating big man in Najee Hallenbeck. So I kind of gave them the nod at this point.
And then in Group 3, you write about the fact that most people wouldn't have expected Morristown to be in a position to be a favorite position. But in Group 3, Morristown, the defending champ, Morristown getting your lean toward which way you think that may go.
Yeah, I think, in Morristown, I think at the beginning of the year and going into it, I thought Timber Creek was going to be the team to beat. I'd seen them over the summertime a little bit and was kind of impressed with the way that they had been playing, and I knew they had some talent back, and that was a program that over the last couple of years had really made some dents and some serious runs in the tournament, but when push came to shove, ended up losing in the title games or losing in the semifinal. But so I kind of thought Timber Creek was a team to beat. And then, as the season has progressed, I continue to be baffled by Morristown. I mean, this is a team that has played extremely well all season long. They're 23-1. They've won 20 straight. They're going to play Paul VI today. In a game that really is, it's in the standings in the grand scheme. It doesn't mean much, but here's 2 top 20 teams. Morristown's 14 in the state now, and they lost 80% of their scoring from last year. I believe they lost 4 starters and a handful of other seniors, and the guys that they had coming back really, hadn't played a ton last year. They had a little bit of experience, but not a ton. And then guys that had to fill in roles and fill in holes were guys that were playing JV ball, guys that were playing on the freshman team. So what Sean Anstey has done there, to me, right now, may be one of the biggest stories of the year, at least for South Jersey basketball, because I don't think anybody, could look at them at the beginning of the season and figure, all right, that's a team that's going to be, not only playing as well as they have, but to be 2 points away from being undefeated right now. So I think, that's a great story. And, right now, I think Morristown and Timber Creek, would be the final. And, while I like Timber Creek's athleticism, something I think I'd lean towards Morristown right now.
Kevin Minnick with us. Now, I'm a bad producer because I set this up and then we're running up against the break. But I will say in Group 2, we've talked about Camden, I feel like, each and every Saturday. So I'll just say the word Camden, tell people to make sure they go to NJ.com and read your story. And in Group 1, I'll remind our listeners that Kevin gives Wildwood a little love, has them in the dark horse category, but read about the other teams that he thinks and who he thinks is going to come out of Group 1. See how I'm doing this? I'm making them go to your story, Kevin. I'm doing the best I can here. Hey, well, I see you next week. My schedule's open up. I'm going to be at Stockton. Will you be there?
I'll be there. It'll be the only game going on that day, so we'll be down there.
Well, that is excellent. If we should try to get a picture of you, me, McGarry together so we can have 3/4 of the Pete Thompson Show regular rotation in the same place.